Hey, I have another quick video about trend lines. When you're looking at the higher trend lines, they can actually come in handy when you're really looking for like a breakthrough and a retest. We played this one today, and it ended up working out really, really well. But then we started talking about Gann fans and Fibonacci fans. Gann fans are a really old concept. I kind of hate them. But they're similar to what we're doing, where they automatically draw a line in, or a series of lines in based on it. Originally, it was supposed to be a 45-degree line, but since charts are all scalable, it's a little tough to know what 45 degrees is, because you have your chart increment is the candle width and price, so you have to sort of decide what that means in terms of a 45-degree angle, but you can sort of guess. And if you can kind of play with a little bit and see there's an angle here that lines up, but how is that any different than from just drawing trend lines the way I draw trend lines? The other thing that's really interesting is Fibonacci fans, which I thought was kind of cool, because if you were to say draw one in to the first peak here, you sort of see some respect here all the way up on the bottom line anyway, and then if you drew one to the next one up, you could almost, depending on where you draw it, I mean, you can almost see how it lines up with other stuff, like here. This one I thought was interesting, where if you were to draw it, the price comes down to here, and if you were to draw it here, it basically mimics this trend line to this peak that then carries it out, and it actually a little more accurately hits this area here. So let's dump down to a 2-day 1-minute chart and just see what this looks like in terms of actual price action. So this one, and actually on this chart it doesn't, because of the way charts render, it's a little bit off, but you can totally see. So this is the trend line that I drew, and this is what I was playing against, was looking at the difference here in price, which was only 2 points maybe. So I was kind of figuring, since there was a bounce, I was going to look for another bounce, and it had gotten a lot of respect previously. And once you're in, I mean, this is a pretty big move. I mean, I think I ended up getting out maybe in here, probably not in here. But if you held through all the chop and then it comes back down a little bit more even, which, and again, this is that Fibonacci fan, which, I mean, I guess it's getting some respect here, but I think that's getting respect in the same way that you could draw a random line from any valid origin point, and you're going to find areas that have that kind of a respect, which you can also just do. Like if you were to take let's go back to our 90-day 4-hour chart and just take a look at where you might be able to draw some of those lines. So if we go in and let's remove the drawings, and just start at the origin here. Actually, let's get trend line. Start at the origin, and you can almost look for areas of confluence as a way of seeing which trend lines are more likely to get respect in the future. So drawing them after the fact, but with an eye towards what's going to be happening in the future. So like looking at this one, you can see that this here kind of gets some respect through this area here. So I might draw one in here, and sure enough, later on you can see price trying to get back up to there. But there's just not a lot of correlation in here. I mean, I like them when they're I probably would draw this one just because it comes off of a trough, but the one that I'm really looking for is going to be this one down here, because this is the actual valid next peak, and that's where we're looking to play this bounce back up, which was a pretty decent one. And then down here, this fall bounces right near it, but then crashes through, and that's that retest. And this is the retest today is what we ended up playing off of that. So one of the other things you could do here is to take this one and start moving them forward, because the origin point is the same, and so you see all of this congestion here is sort of bounded by this, and you could use that as a good rule of thumb when you start zooming in to see, well, price is holding above this, no, price is not holding above this, so you can play the short there. And then you can also move them down further, so you hit the next one that shows up. So when this one showed up, and I think I used this as a when this came back up to here and retested as a way to get in this trade going up. But this one, I don't know. The bottom was a little iffy, and it didn't really help me on the lower chart to be able to really play this from this. But you can totally keep adding them. You know, I mean, the line itself is valid. Probably what I would want to do though is start playing some of these ones on a shorter time frame, because these are going to be a little more useful for the short term, like the intraday price action of the 1 minute chart. So if we go back to our 1 minute chart here, what I would probably want to do is draw these lines in over here, you know, so once it's done loading all of the data. So this is going to be our primary line. That's the one that's still unbroken, but you can also draw one from here, which would have been the first bounce, the first real bounce of the day. And you can see all of this, like it crashes through, tries to get back up, it can't, fails. And so when it comes back up and just blows right through it, at that point you are looking for a retest, which you could totally take here. And then in terms of getting out again, that's gonna depend on where you actually draw these lines. I mean, you can try to find ones that are close and then play off of them, but there's nothing here that's really going to tell you a top unless you go to the other side, where, you know, I'm not sure where this stuff was originally, but this is how I would know to get out is, you know, I draw this line first, and when it hits this, at least I'm scaling here, but then you can kind of see that it's actually respecting that one. So anyway, that I thought that was kind of interesting though, to use these Fibonacci fans and see where it draws the lines, and then where they actually, you know, appear to get respect, which is kind of neat. You know, I mean, like I'm not going to deny I definitely see some interesting confluence here, but I also wouldn't know how to play these in any kind of a repeatable way, unlike the trend lines, which, you know, I feel like that to me is a little more solid, because you're actually basing it off of the recent price action. But if you were to you know, keep drawing these in, I'm sure you could find reasons for why these things are respected wherever they're respected. But way better than the Gann fans anyway. But they're not really the same thing. So I mean, that's the difference, is the way I'm drawing these trend lines. From, you know, the peak to the second highest peak, and that peak to the next highest peak, and so on, and then keeping the historical lines. Those historical lines are the ones that end up getting the most respect. You know, I mean, if you're just drawing lines randomly from random origins, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You know, I mean, if you're in this trade, you're going to want to draw it from something that makes sense to something else that makes sense, and not just pick a random one. So like this is not a valid point, but drawing one from here to here, I mean, yeah, I guess what good does that do you if you're just drawing it from the middle? You know, I mean, it doesn't really help. It doesn't tell you a lot, and so there's not a lot of correlation with what the price action is. So anyway, I mean, if you feel like it, these are all tools that you can get in the in TOS. So it's Fibonacci fans and Gann fans, which are fun to play with, and also might be a useful trading tool if you can figure out how they work.